Hello everyone and welcome back to another Astromax Gaming video. Welcome to something different that I haven't done before, but I've basically not done anything before because I only have like one video. But this is a tier list, and I know you're probably thinking, Astromax Gaming, what are you doing a tier list? And do you know what I say to that? I say, screw it, I'm doing a tier list because this is my channel and I can do what I want. Okay, thank you. This is a tier list of ranking every Crash Bandicoot game from amazing, being like very good, and like basically no flaws, by this game. Now, great is like it's really good, but it has like not a lot of flaws, but a couple of flaws, but it's still pretty good. Okay, it's not bad, but it's not really that good either. Then we have bad, which is kind of self-explanatory. Bad, don't buy this game. Crash Boom Bang, separate category. It's that bad, you see. Crash Boom Bang, boring. Not Crash Bash 2. Don't ever think about this game. Don't even think about it. Don't even look at it right now. Everyone, look away. Do not look at this thing that we call a game. It's just boring. They do have boards, unlike in Crash Bash, but there's really no point, because like no one's going to play this absolute cheeks game because it uses touch controls because it's on the DS. Anyway, without further ado, let's actually start this thing without talking about this. First up, we have, also by the way, I have 2 Crash Bandicoot 4s. I don't know why, I'm just going to leave this one here. Crash Nitro Kart. This game is like, it's okay. It's like, it's basically just Crash Team Racing, except not as good. I mean, it's better in like some ways, like, but then it's really not as good. Like the adventure mode is not as good because like you don't fight classic Crash characters. Like the first boss is literally just a random blue monkey, but it's just like they have cool ideas. They have like tracks where there's like these exclamation mark crates, and if you drive into them, it like sets up traps for players behind you, so like the floor would open up or something like that. That's pretty cool, but it's kind of just a worse version of Crash Team Racing in like some ways. It's not bad, but you know, it's not that good. That's why I put it in okay. Crash Nitro Kart. This is amazing. I like this game a lot. It is basically just Nitro Kart and Crash Team Racing just put together, because it has that much content, and it's not like quality over quantity, because most of the stuff in this game is quality. Like, there are a few tracks that are like not that good, but they're from the original, so you know, it was like kind of limited back then. But the Nitro Kart tracks, especially like in HD, is very good, and with like the new controls and the new boost mechanic, which was in Nitro Kart, but it like combined the Nitro Kart and the Crash Team Racing mechanics and like put it into one. It does have the original Crash Team Racing story, but that's okay because no one really wants to play the Nitro Kart one anyway, because the main villain, he's got like a beard which looks like a stone, and it's in the shape of a V, like, which is the first letter of his name, because his name's Velo. That's just kind of weird, to be honest. Crash Bandicoot 4. This is the most recent one on this list because I don't have the mobile game, which isn't that good anyway. I'd say it's above Nitro Fueled, because when you're going for like a casual run, if you're just doing a casual playthrough of this game, it's really, really good. It's probably the best of like the original trilogy, like 1, 2 and 3. It's got like the best level design, the best movement, like controlling Crash or Coco or any of the other characters is like really good, and it's the first time you can actually play as other characters in like a mainline game, because you can play as like Cortex and stuff in Twinsanity, but like you can also play as Dingodile and Torna, although she looks kind of different in this game. I'll let you see it for yourself if you buy the game. But yeah, you should, it's very good. But then going for 100%, like, it's a grueling task, because you have to not only get all the gems in one level, because instead of just being 1 gem for breaking all the boxes, you get 3 gems for 80% of the Wumpa fruit. You get 1 gem for breaking all the boxes. You get 1 for finding the hidden gem. You you get one for dying 3 times or less, and you also have to find the coloured gems in the specific levels that they have them in, and all of that for a secret ending. But then I won't tell you what the secret ending is, but you can also get another secret ending where you have to do all of that in every single level without even dying a single time. And you also have to get the platinum time trial relics, because unlike in the first 3, in Crash 3 and then the Insane Trilogy, platinum is like, you don't need it to get 100%, you just need gold. But in this game you need platinum, and the one that is basically the same as platinum in this one is the developer times. And yeah, Crash Twinsanity. Good. I think it's pretty good, but there's a lot of things that are bad about it and a lot of things that are good about it. But I put it in great, yeah, because it has a lot of issues, but overall it's a pretty good game, because there's like, the platforming is like core Crash platforming, except for the fact that it's now like kind of like open world, so the levels like interconnect to each other, unlike in the first 3 and Wrath of Cortex. But we'll get onto that one in a minute. Where is Wrath of Cortex? Oh, here it is, yeah. Anyway, Twinsanity sees Crash and Cortex teaming up to fight against the evil twins, which are like birds that Cortex experimented on, and it accidentally sent them to like an alternate universe, and it made them all big brain and stuff. They're like really not that special or villains. They're just birds that want to take over the universe. And the final boss is pretty good, especially the last stage where you have to like jump over the coloured platforms and like remember what pattern it is. It's pretty good. But the final boss is also pretty good. But Nina is like my least favourite character to play as, because you can also play as Cortex, but there's only like 2 levels, I think, where you actually just play as Cortex on his own. A lot of them is just Crash and Cortex, like Crash holding the gem and then Cortex holding the crystal, like behind him, and you have to like deal with that. There's a lot of new mechanics thrown in that are only like one time, like stealth and that ball rolling segment where like Crash and Cortex like fighting in like a cartoon style where there's like a cloud of smoke, stuff like that. It's pretty good overall. But Nina is my least favourite character, because she's basically like Torna from Crash 4, like with her grappling hook, except just not as good, because the grappling hook in Crash 4 is like good. Most of the time when you mess up, it's your fault. It's not the game's fault. No offense, by the way. But here, it's a lot of the time, like especially in the final boss, it's just not that responsive, So that's why it's that great, but not amazing. Crash Warped. Just gonna move out the way. Crash 4. Crash Warped. It's in the platforming and stuff, it's probably not as good as Crash 4, but then the task to get 100% in this game is like easier than in Crash 4, because there's only one gem, or other than the coloured gems, like one for the box breaking. You don't have to collect all the Wumpa fruit or anything like that, you just need to break all the boxes. Simple Crash platforming. And also they added a lot more new mechanics to the first 2. You can like slide jump, which you could do in Crash 2. There's like double jumps and new power-ups that you get from beating the bosses, like the speedy shoe thingies that are for the time trials, which were new in Crash 3 and then returned for the Insane Trilogy and I think Wrath of Cortex. They also added more gameplay styles like bikes and jet skis and planes and underwater levels, and the animal riding segments return as well, but I think in most of them you have to play as Coco, because she's a new character as well. You don't play as her in the platforming stages, but just in the stages that she's meant to be in. You can play with her in the platforming stages in the Insane Trilogy, but we'll get onto that soon, don't you worry. Next up, Crash Team Racing, the original. So this game is better than Twinsanity. It's great. Well, for the time anyway. I think it's better than Mario Kart 64, because I have a Nintendo 64. I don't own a PS1, but my uncle does, so that's how I played this game. I think that this game is probably the best kart racer of like the generation. I actually think it's better than Mario Kart 64, because it has an adventure mode first of all, which Diddy Kong Racing also had, but like but Mario Kart 64 didn't, so it kind of like built upon that. Also the items, they're nothing special, but I do like the TNT. Like if it gets on you, then you have to bounce up and stuff. That's cool. And the different characters you can unlock is cool, and that stuff is just pretty epic. I mean, the controls were improved upon in Nitro Fueled, which is why it's below it. But there isn't really a reason to go back to this one, unless you like want to. Like, it's not a bad game. It's just you have this one, so why wouldn't you? Next up, Crash 2 Cortex Strikes Back is great. I wouldn't say it's amazing, because even though the movement is definitely more proved upon than Crash 1, it's still not as free as like Crash 3 and 4, because you still can't double jump, but that wasn't really added in yet, so it's kind of fair. The story is, so straight after Crash 1, when Cortex falls from his blimp, spoiler alert by the way, I should have said that, he falls into this cave and finds crystals, and then he recruits Crash to find crystals, because he says like there's going to be a cause that's going to like destroy the earth if he doesn't collect all the crystals. He's lying, obviously, but Crash is too dummy thick despite Coco's warnings, so he just goes along with it. The final boss is a joke. It's pretty bad. All you do is just go in the jetpack and just spin into Cortex 3 times, and then it's over. It's kind of anticlimactic, but it does its job okay. But I think the best boss was probably Tiny Tiger, because you have to jump on these platforms, and he follows exactly what you're doing. And if you jump onto a platform that is about to fall, then he jumps onto that too, and then he falls down, and you have to do that 3 times. It's pretty creative, because you don't directly attack him like you do in most of the other bosses. So yeah, that's why Crash 2 is great. Next up, Crash Bash. Crash Bash is Mario Party, except with Crash, and no boards, just mini games. So yeah, I'd say it's bad, but it's not really bad. It's just boring, and it's well made ish, but it's just you play all the mini games, and there's 4 mini games in total. There's a few one-offs, but all of it's basically just the same thing, just with reskins. The bosses are cool, especially the one where you fight the big polar bear in the adventure mode, and you shoot rockets in his face, which is very satisfying after he's been chased by him in Crash 2 and 3. Speaking of the adventure mode, it's bad. The story is bad, because it's basically just Aku Aku and Uka Uka having a fight, and then they recruit their friends, and yeah, that's pretty bad. They just recruit their friends to duke it out. It doesn't really make sense, but it's a Crash game, so it doesn't really need a story. And to get onto the next rooms in the adventure mode is you have to collect all this sort of stuff that the game didn't even tell you it had, and it's just kind of boring. But the only way to play all the mini games is to play through the adventure mode, unless you do stuff with Spyro 3. You can look that up yourself on YouTube, because I don't have time to explain it. I'm sorry. Crash Mind Over Mutant. This is better than Crash of the Titans, but not by much. I still say it's bad. Yeah, I'd still say it's bad. It's got better platforming, and because I haven't gone over Crash of the Titans yet, you basically just beat people up and just jack them, which is taking control of them. I know it sounds a bit weird, but you just gotta roll with it, and you control them to get their powers and stuff. But it just makes the whole game really easy, because you basically just press X or square or whatever it is. I don't play PlayStation, so I don't know. You just press the same button over and over again for the same light attacks, and then occasional heavy attacks, but they're just not, you don't really need that, because it's already easy anyway. That's why this game is bad. It's not like badly made. The cutscenes are very funny, in like especially the part when Cortex was in his like blimp, and then he like, "Hey genius, you know I can't actually hear you, right?" It is funny. So still don't buy it, but if you want to watch the cutscenes, just go on YouTube and look them up. So because it's better than wasting your money on this doo-doo game. Anyway, Crash Bandicoot 1. I'd say it's okay. It was probably good at the time, but now it needs a lot of refining, which is what they did in the Insane trilogy here. And it's like basically just because it is the first Crash game ever, so it's not gonna be the best one, but it's like a lot of the movement just got more refined as it went on, so it's not poorly made at all. It's not bad, but by today's standards it kind of is, so that's why it's at okay, because it's not bad, but it's not that good anyway. Like, there's no reason really to go back to it when you have the Insane trilogy, or even these two. Yeah, so that's why it's here, because you can't even double jump and all that, and the bosses are nothing special. Most of them are just really easy. The final boss is pretty good, but yeah, that's all I have to say. Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex. It's okay. I mean, I know a lot of people say it's really bad, especially because of the loading times, but when you play on like Xbox, like, well, I have it on Xbox 360. I have the original Xbox version, but I'm playing it through like backwards compatibility. It's like the load times aren't that bad. Well, they might be on like PS2 or something, but the game it's solid. Like the actual platforming is pretty good, but it's pretty easy as well, especially to 100%. It's pretty easy because the enemies are just put in places where they'll probably never hit you. You can just run around them, or you can just attack them because they have like really slow patterns. Like the scientists, they just throw potions at the floor like over and over again, and it's just easy to avoid. But so it's not bad, but I mean the bosses are like pretty lackluster. It's literally just crunch like 4 times against the elemental masks, which are new additions, but they're not really necessary, especially because one of them sounds exactly like the Joker because he's Mark Hamill. Anyway, Crash Bandicoot Mutant Island. I haven't played this one, so I from what I've heard, it's basically just similar to Mind Over Mutant, except more like the GBA games, which we'll get onto in just a second. Don't worry, don't get your knickers in a twist. Just wait, okay? It's like 2D like the GBA games, but it's not like a platform. It's still like a beat 'em up. So I'll just put it here, I guess. Crash of the Titans. Yeah, it's bad because it's literally just Mind Over Mutant, except less platforming and just more beating up people for like no reason at all. It's just boring, so that's why it's bad. It's basically just what I said about Mind Over Mutant, except just in this game. The cutscenes are like not even good, but I mean in this game they had like all different art styles. The one that I said about the funny thing was actually in this one, but this one's pretty funny as well, so yeah, that's why it's there. Crash Tag Team Racing. This is bad. I know it's kind of a shame to see lots of Crash games in the bad category. Well, it's not bad because it's a bad game, even though it kind of is, because I'll probably put it here. It's like the racing is pretty bad, so it's like it's really stiff to control and all of that. Like when you turn left on the joystick, it kind of feels like you're actually driving like a tractor or something. That's how stiff it is. But all you have to do is like clash, because there's clashing mechanic. That's why it's called tag team racing. You just clash with other racers who use their weapons against the other racers, and that it sounds like a pretty cool concept. But when you actually play it, it's not, because all you have to do is just clash with Engine and just do it that way, because his rockets are so overpowered and you do have limited ammo, but all you do is just unclash and then clash again, and then you have all your ammo back, and while you're shooting down the targets, the computer player just drives round the course like perfectly. They don't make any mistakes, so that's why it's the easiest game in the racing. But that's only in the racing, because it also has an entire hub world instead of just a menu of platforming. Kind of like, the platform is kind of similar to Twinsanity, like it's full 3D, but it's just not as good, because it's just like you fall way faster, the gravity just feels a bit off, and it's just not good at platforming or good at racing, which is why it's a bad game. Crash Fusion, which is actually called Crash Purple outside of Europe, but I know it as Crash Fusion, and I wish I didn't, because it's bad. I'm going to put it at the very end of bad, because it's just bad. It's literally a mini game collection of games where Crash is in it, Spyro's in it for a few, and the story is that Cortex and Ripto, the villain from Spyro 2 and Year of the Dragonfly, which we don't talk about, is just not good. You know, the story's just not good, because they just team up from like nowhere, and then they try and like get Crash and Spyro to fight against each other, but then they realise that something's up, so then they go fight the bad guys. And it sounds like it'll be like a cool platformer, but it's not. It's just mini games. It's just like playing as Crash, doing boring stuff, and then progressing with the story. And then Spyro Orange is even worse, but I'll maybe do a Crash tier list. I mean, not Crash tier list, a Spyro tier list. Maybe later. Like, maybe I'll do another video about that. Anyway, Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced. This game is like the Huge Adventure, which we'll get onto, except not as good in my opinion. It's still good. I'll just put it at the back of great, because like, it's kind of easy for a Crash game. Like, it isn't the first proper 2D one. That was the Huge Adventure, but it's like, it's easier in a lot of ways, but the final boss is pretty difficult. It's not like an unfair challenge. It's good, but it's got the new villain in it, which is Entrance. He looks like Humpty Dumpty in like a mech suit. He's not. I mean, he's pretty good. I think he was like made by Entropy, so he can hypnotize people. So a lot of the bosses is Crash fighting against his friends like Coco and Crunch, and they're like mind controlled into fighting against him. So yeah. Let's get on to the Insane Trilogy, which is going to go at the very top, because it's Crash 2, Crash 1, 2 and 3, except with like better graphics, better controls, and better everything really, better music, well, most of the places. For example, like the temple theme in Crash 1, it sounds kind of like, it doesn't sound like creepy like it did in the original. It sounds more like upbeat and like jazzy, and some people don't like it. I don't really have a problem with it, because I just don't. But what they've been able to do with these three classics and like make them into new games is insane. Get it? Because it's called the Insane Trilogy. Well, yeah. So the story is the same as these three. Everything's the same. The vehicle section is the same. And you can also play as Coco in all three of the games. You get to like a certain point, and then it asks if Coco can like join you on your adventure, and then you just press like the right trigger, and then you just turn into her. You can't do it in the levels though, but in like the hub world. And it also makes sense in the story, because in Crash 3, in the Insane version, you can see her like on the computer in the Time Twister, like looking up different locations across these three games. So she's actually going back in time to help you, which is a really cool detail. Next up, the last game, because this is a duplicate of this, Crash Bandicoot, the Huge Adventure. Now, this game is good. Better than... I'd put it here. I like this game. It's the first like proper 2D Crash game, not like McDonald's Toys or something. The first proper one for the Game Boy Advance. And it does its job pretty well. I think Crash converts to 2D pretty well. Like, the sliding needs a bit of work, but you know, they might do another 2D Crash game for the Switch. Who knows? I don't know. But they might refine some of the controls there. But like you do have double jumping and all that stuff from Crash 3, and you also have the like speedy shoe things. I forgot what they're called, but you have those for the time trials, and overall it's just a pretty good game. I think it's better than Entranced, but you know, let me just fix some stuff up a bit, because like this is the end. So Crash Boom Bang is going to stay here. Bad. So the best of the worst out of these games, I would put Crash Bash, Mind Over Mutant. This is definitely staying at the back. This is bad. I haven't played this one actually, so I'll put this at the back just because I haven't played it. And I think, yeah, I think that'll do for the bad category. In the okay, I'd keep it like this. Great, Crash 2 is staying at the front. I would put this here actually, because it's not that much worse than the Huge Adventure. It's just like a bit more like just not as good. They didn't improve in a lot of stuff from the Huge Adventure. They just kind of built upon it. And Amazing, I don't know if I should move Crash 4 like that, because overall it is a better game, but the fact that there's a lot more to do for 100% in Crash 4 is not worth it for the secret ending, because you can just look it up nowadays. Like, it may be cool from like the first 3 games unlocking the secret ending, but in this one it isn't really worth it. I won't tell you what it is, but you know, find out for yourself if you really want to. And that's gonna be it for this video. If you enjoyed this tier list and want to see more of some guy ranking random games that you probably never played before, you can subscribe, you can like this video even. It will tell me that you guys want to see more tier list videos. And without further ado, I'll end it here. Peace out, Astromax gang.